In August of 1945, the world breathed a collective sigh of relief. World War II, the most devastating conflict in human history, was finally coming to an end. Cities, once plunged into the darkness of blackouts and the terror of bombings, now lit up with spontaneous celebrations. Millions of soldiers, sailors, and airmen began to dream of returning home, to their families, and to a life of peace. Japan's surrender, following the cataclysmic events of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, sealed the fate of an era of global conflict, promising a future of reconstruction and hope. However, amidst this widespread euphoria, the American Navy, upon entering Japanese shipyards, would make a discovery that would not only brutally contrast with the spirit of victory, but would leave them in a state of absolute shock, a revelation that would challenge everything they thought they knew about naval warfare and the technological capability of the recently defeated enemy. It was not just another damaged warship or a conventional submarine base, but something far more audacious and disturbing, a war machine that seemed to have emerged from a distant future, ready to redefine the limits of battle in the oceans. The magnitude of its existence was a somber reminder that, even in victory, technological danger could lurk in the shadows. The scene that unfolded in the shipyards of Kure and Sasebo was of a magnitude that defied the immediate comprehension of Allied officers. There, imposing and silent, lay colossal submarines, true metallic leviathans that, at first glance, seemed more like warships than the submersible vessels Americans were familiar with. Measuring over 400 feet in length, these machines were almost twice the size of the largest American submarines of the era, and their massive presence was a testament to naval engineering that seemed to belong to a future age. What truly sent a chill down the observers' spines, however, was not just the size but the unusual features adorning their decks. Hermetic, cylindrical, and robust hangars protruded from the main structure, and beside them, pneumatic catapults, equipment that seemed to belong on aircraft carriers, not submarines. The implication was clear and terrifying. These vessels were not mere hunters of merchant ships. They were strategic attack platforms, capable of launching bombers. The sight of these underwater giants, with their ability to project air power stealthily, transformed the Allies' perception of Japanese ingenuity, revealing a threat that had remained hidden until the very last moment of the conflict. The discovery of these super submarines revealed a dimension of warfare that the Allies had barely imagined. These were not conventional submarines, designed for silent patrols and stealth attacks on convoys. They were, in fact, submersible air bases, capable of carrying and launching attack aircraft from anywhere in the ocean. The idea of bombers appearing out of nowhere, hundreds or thousands of miles from the enemy coast, without the need for vulnerable aircraft carriers or fixed air bases, was a complete paradigm shift. The ability to bypass coastal and air defenses, to appear in enemy waters without warning, and deliver devastating blows, represented a strategic threat of incalculable proportions. The metallic silence of these gigantic hulls, now inert in the shipyards, contrasted dramatically with the deafening roar of victory celebrations echoing through American ports. It was as if, at the very moment of triumph, a technological shadow from the past, or perhaps the future, revealed itself, reminding them of the fragility of the newly won peace. The existence of these submarines challenged established military logic, forcing a complete reevaluation of defense and attack strategies in a global scenario. This video aims to unravel the hidden history behind these underwater giants. We will reveal how Japan, amidst the growing desperation of a losing war, secretly conceived and developed the most advanced submarine weapon of its time, a war machine capable of striking anywhere on the globe with unprecedented range. We will delve into the minds of the strategists and engineers who transformed an audacious vision into a technological reality, pushing the boundaries of naval and aeronautical engineering. But more than that, we will explore why the United States, after discovering this technological threat, did everything in its power to ensure the world never knew the true extent of its devastating potential. The story of the I-400s is not just a fascinating chapter of World War II. It is a case study in military innovation, state secrecy, and the geopolitical anxieties that shaped the beginning of the Cold War, a narrative that remained buried for decades, slowly emerging from the depths of classified history. The truth about these submarines challenges the common perception that the war ended with a clear and unsurprising victory, revealing a technological complexity that could have altered the fate of nations. The genesis of the I-400 submarines dates back to the mind of one of the 20th century's most brilliant and audacious naval strategists, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. In 1942, when the tide of war in the Pacific still seemed to favor the Japanese side, Yamamoto already anticipated future challenges. He, the same architect of the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, understood the vast expanse of the Pacific and the formidable industrial capacity of the United States. He knew that to win a war of attrition against such a vast power, Japan would need a weapon that could bypass conventional defenses and strike the enemy in its own territory, delivering a psychological and material blow that could force a peace negotiation. His vision was radical, a revolutionary submarine fleet, not of hunters but of aircraft carriers, capable of operating independently and for long periods in distant waters, an idea that challenged all naval conventions of the era and which, initially, was met with skepticism and disbelief. Yamamoto's audacity in proposing such a concept at a time of apparent Japanese advantage demonstrated his deep understanding of power dynamics and the need for innovation for survival. Yamamoto's proposal was audacious beyond any naval precedent. He envisioned gigantic submarines, capable of carrying bombers for direct attacks against American cities, strategic military installations, and, crucially, the Panama Canal. The destruction of the Panama Canal, the vital artery connecting the American fleets of the Atlantic and Pacific, would have had an immense strategic impact, forcing ships to circumnavigate all of South America, adding precious weeks to naval operations, and potentially altering the balance of power in the Pacific. The admiral argued that only a devastating attack on the American industrial and logistical heartland could force the United States to negotiate peace on terms favorable to Japan. This was a thesis that went against established doctrine, where submarines were relegated to the role of merchant ship hunters or support for surface fleets. Yamamoto, with his long-range strategic vision, understood that modern warfare demanded new approaches, and the I-400s would be the materialization of this desperate need. His conviction that radical innovation was the only path to victory, even in the face of enemy numerical superiority, shaped the destiny of this extraordinary project. Japanese naval engineers, upon receiving Yamamoto's proposal, initially considered the idea impossible. Building a submarine was already a complex engineering task, but integrating a hermetic hangar and an aircraft catapult system into a submersible vessel, while maintaining deep diving capability and long-range autonomy, seemed like a technological utopia. The challenges were monumental: how to protect aircraft from extreme ocean pressure, how to launch them quickly and recover them in rough seas, how to power submerged diesel engines. However, the growing pressure of the war and the desperate need for a decisive weapon forced them to completely rethink the limits of submarine engineering. With each defeat in the Pacific, with each island lost, the urgency increased. The Imperial High Command, realizing the transformative potential of the idea, granted the I-400 project maximum priority and virtually unlimited resources. It was a high-risk gamble, but one that, if successful, could reverse the course of a war that was becoming increasingly unfavorable. The determination to overcome seemingly insurmountable technical obstacles demonstrated the nation's resilience and ingenuity in times of crisis. The development of the I-400s required technological innovations that pushed Japanese naval engineering far beyond its known limits. The shipyards of Kure and Sasebo, centers of naval excellence, were transformed into true laboratories of experimentation, where technicians and engineers worked 24-hour shifts, 7 days a week, to solve problems that had never been faced before. The most pressing challenge was to create a completely hermetic hangar within the hull of a submarine, capable of protecting aircraft from the extreme ocean pressures during deep dives. The solution was not trivial, involving the development of revolutionary synthetic rubber seals capable of withstanding the immense water pressure and complex drainage systems that could evacuate any water infiltration in a matter of seconds. ensuring the integrity of the compartment and the safety of the aircraft. Every detail was crucial, and every failure could mean disaster for the mission and for the crew. The relentless pursuit of solutions to these unprecedented technical challenges demonstrated the audacity and innovative capacity of Japanese engineers. Simultaneously with the hangar challenge, Japanese engineers faced the Herculean task of designing a compact yet powerful enough pneumatic catapult to launch a fully loaded bomber from the deck of a submarine. The solution found was an ingenious system, capable of accelerating an aircraft from 0 to 80 miles per hour in just 60 feet of track, an engineering feat that required impeccable pressure control and synchronization. But launching was only half the equation. The system for recovering aircraft after missions presented an even greater complexity, requiring precise hydraulic cranes and a team of specialized technicians who could disassemble and reassemble a plane in less than 1 hour, even in rough seas. Imagine the scene: a submarine surfacing in enemy waters, launching its planes, and then, after the attack, recovering them in adverse conditions, all with clockwork precision. It was an unprecedented orchestration of engineering and human discipline, a mechanical and human ballet performed under the constant threat of enemy detection. When the first I-400 was launched in December of 1944, its dimensions caused astonishment even among the Japanese builders themselves. At 400 feet in length and a displacement of 5,900 tons, it was a vessel that defied categorization. To put it in perspective, it was larger than many cruisers of the era, and 3 times larger than any American or German submarine in service. Its imposing silhouette, with the prominent cylindrical hangar on the deck, was a visible testament to Japanese ambition. The double hull, an innovation that provided greater strength and revolutionary ballast tanks, allowed dives in less than 5 minutes, an impressive speed for a vessel of such magnitude. This rapid diving capability was vital for survival, allowing the submarine to disappear beneath the waves before enemy defenses could react. Every aspect of its design was a statement of strategic intent, a direct challenge to the naval supremacy of the Allied powers, and a promise of a new type of warfare. The operational heart of the I-400 was its internal hangar, a marvel of naval engineering measuring 115 feet in length. This colossal space was sufficient to accommodate 3 fully assembled Aichi M6A1 Seiran bombers, each carrying a 1,760-pound bomb or a torpedo. The ability to carry multiple attack aircraft, ready to be launched in rapid succession, transformed the submarine into a true mobile airbase. But range was what truly defined the I-400 as a global strategic weapon. With an operational range of 37,500 nautical miles, it could circumnavigate the globe 1.5 times without the need for refueling. This meant that no point on the American coastline, or any other continent, would be beyond its reach. The dual diesel engines, generating 7,700 horsepower, propelled the underwater giant at 18 knots on the surface, a respectable speed for a vessel of its size. This combination of aerial firepower and global reach made it an unprecedented threat in naval history. The crew of 144 men aboard each I-400 was an elite force, carefully selected and trained to operate this complex machine and its aircraft. It included specialized naval pilots, aeronautical technicians dedicated to the maintenance and preparation of the Seirans, and an elite team specifically trained for asymmetric warfare operations in enemy territory. The cohesion and discipline of this crew were fundamental to the success of the missions, which required impeccable coordination between submarine and air operations. The pilots, for example, were not just aviators. They were sailors who understood the nuances of submarine operation, and the sailors, in turn, were familiar with the requirements for launching and recovering aircraft. This integration of skills and knowledge was crucial for executing plans that challenged conventional military logic, transforming each I-400 into a self-sufficient and highly specialized combat unit, ready to operate in isolation for long periods. The dedication and intensive training of these men were as extraordinary as the vessel they operated. The Seiran bombers, designed exclusively for submarine operations, represented a masterpiece of Japanese aeronautical engineering. Each aircraft was conceived with an relentless focus on modularity and storage efficiency. It could be completely disassembled into modular components in just 45 minutes, a remarkable time that allowed for its efficient storage in the submarine's hermetic hangar. The folding wings, retractable landing gear, and removable propeller were innovations that anticipated decades of aeronautical development, demonstrating a futuristic vision in aircraft design. The 1,400 horsepower I-400 engine provided a range of 650 nautical miles, sufficient for deep attacks into American territory with a safe return to the submarine. This attack and return capability was crucial for the sustainability of operations, allowing multiple missions from a single submarine platform. The ingenuity behind the Seiran was a testament to Japan's ability to innovate under extreme pressure. The Seiran's navigation system was equally advanced for its time, including sophisticated radio equipment and precision gyroscopic compasses, which allowed for nocturnal navigation over vast oceans without visual references. This ability to operate in low-visibility conditions and over long distances was essential for the stealthy nature of the planned missions. Even more impressive was the operational versatility of these aircraft. The Seirans could be configured as conventional bombers, torpedo bombers, or even kamikaze aircraft for suicide missions, depending on the nature of the target and the mission strategy. This tactical flexibility made them an extremely adaptable attack tool. The pilots selected for these missions underwent intensive 6-month training, which included simulations of takeoff and landing in extreme ocean conditions, astronomical navigation, and survival techniques in enemy territory. It was a brutal training, designed to prepare these men for the most dangerous and isolated warfare operations, forging an elite of aviator sailors. The first operational mission planned for the I-400s was as audacious as it was terrifying: a coordinated attack against the locks of the Panama Canal. This canal, a marvel of modern engineering, was the vital artery connecting the American fleets of the Atlantic and Pacific, allowing for the rapid movement of warships and supplies. The plan, codenamed Operation Arashi, the Storm, envisioned 3 I-400 submarines sailing submerged across the Pacific, surfacing simultaneously in the Gulf of Panama to launch 9 Seiran bombers. Each plane would be loaded with special armor-piercing bombs designed to cause maximum damage to the concrete and steel structures of the locks. The destruction of these locks would force American ships to circumnavigate all of South America, a journey that would add weeks to naval operations and potentially alter the balance of power in the Pacific, giving Japan crucial breathing room in its desperate struggle. The audacity of this plan demonstrated the Japanese belief that a strategic blow could reverse the course of an already lost war. The Seiran bombers, under the cloak of pre-dawn darkness, would attack in low formation, taking advantage of limited visibility and the reduced effectiveness of anti-aircraft defenses at that hour. Surprise would be the key element. After the attack, the pilots would attempt to return to the submarines for recovery, a risky maneuver that required extreme precision and coordination in a hostile environment. However, they also carried survival equipment for prolonged land missions, should recovery fail or become impossible. Japanese intelligence had meticulously mapped the canal's defenses, identifying radar blind spots and approach routes that would minimize detection. Every detail, from flight altitude to attack angle, was planned to maximize the chances of success and minimize losses. The success of Operation Arashi could have prolonged the war for months or even years, changing the course of history and the perception of American invulnerability in its own hemisphere. The execution of this plan would have been a landmark in naval warfare, redefining the concept of strategic attack. Parallel to the development of the I-400s and Operation Arashi, the Japanese High Command was devising even more sinister plans, which demonstrated the empire's growing desperation in its fight against the Allies. Operation Night Cherry Blossoms represented a terrifying escalation in biological warfare, a plan that aimed to use the super submarines for biological weapon attacks against American cities. The idea was simple in its brutality: to drop special bombs containing fleas infected with bubonic plague over San Diego, aiming to create an epidemic that would spread rapidly across the west coast of the United States. It was a strategy of terror designed to sow panic and destabilize the enemy's rear, forcing a dispersion of resources and a breakdown in civilian morale. The mere conception of such a plan underscored the depth of Japanese desperation and the willingness to use any means to try to reverse the inevitable. The coldness with which such strategies were conceived revealed the darkest face of total war. Scientists from Unit 731, the infamous Japanese biological warfare laboratory, were responsible for developing the means to execute Operation Night Cherry Blossoms. They had created special containers that would keep the fleas alive during the long transoceanic flight and ensure their effective dispersion over densely populated urban areas. The date chosen for this macabre attack was September 22, 1945, taking advantage of favorable weather conditions for maximum dispersion of the fleas and, consequently, the disease. Documents captured after the war revealed the coldness of Japanese calculations. They estimated between 50,000 and 100,000 direct deaths as an initial result of the epidemic, with the potential for hundreds of thousands of additional victims as the disease spread uncontrollably. Fortunately, the Japanese surrender on August 15, 1945, prevented the execution of this heinous plan. However, the mere existence of such preparations demonstrated how far Japan was willing to go in its final struggle, revealing a face of the war that few were prepared to confront. When American occupation forces discovered the I-400 submarines in Japanese ports, the initial reaction was one of absolute disbelief. Veteran naval officers, accustomed to conventional submarines of 300 feet in length, found themselves facing leviathans that defied everything they knew about submarine warfare. Admiral Chester Nimitz, commander of the Pacific Forces, a man who had witnessed the greatest naval battles in history, described his first inspection of an I-400 as walking inside a technological nightmare that could have changed everything. The sight of the hermetic hangars and catapult systems caused immediate panic among American naval strategists, who instantly realized the devastating implications of this technology. It was a weapon that, if used on a large scale, could have altered the course of the war in unimaginable ways, and its discovery at the end of the conflict was a somber reminder of how close the world had come to an even more terrible reality. The revelation of this Japanese capability at the end of the war added a layer of complexity to the Allied victory. The perception that the Japanese had developed such advanced technology, in many respects decades ahead of American and British developments, was particularly alarming. If the Japanese had completed their planned fleet of 18 I-400s, they could have attacked any point on the American coast, from Seattle to San Diego, without warning. The ability to launch air attacks stealthily and anywhere in the world would have redefined the national security of the United States. Initial technical reports on the I-400s were immediately classified as ultra-secret and distributed only to an extremely restricted circle of high-ranking officers. The need to keep this information away from the public and, more importantly, from other powers, became a top priority. The discovery of these submarines was not just a technological curiosity. It was a revelation that demanded a complete reevaluation of defense doctrine and the perception of the global threat. The fear that this technology could fall into the wrong hands was a central concern for American strategists. Detailed analysis of the I-400s revealed innovations that would completely revolutionize the concept of naval submarine warfare. The advanced snorkel system, for example, allowed diesel engines to operate at depths of up to 60 feet, keeping batteries charged without the need for prolonged surface exposure. This drastically increased the submarine's stealth and submerged endurance. Japanese passive sonars demonstrated superior sensitivity to American equipment, capable of detecting ships at distances of more than 20 miles, offering a significant tactical advantage. The inertial navigation system, based on precision gyroscopes, allowed for accurate underwater navigation for weeks without external references, a crucial capability for long-range missions in vast oceans without landmarks. Each of these technological advancements represented a quantum leap in submarine engineering, and their combination in the I-400 created an unprecedented warfare platform. The sophistication of these systems demonstrated a strategic and technical vision that was far ahead of its time. Even more impressive was the I-400's low-frequency communication system, which maintained contact with Japanese command even at operational depths, ensuring that missions could be coordinated and adjusted in real time, regardless of the submarine's location. The crew compartments, designed for long-duration missions, included air conditioning and purification systems that allowed for prolonged submersions of up to 2 months, a remarkable feat for the era. The hull armor incorporated special steel alloys that offered superior resistance to depth charges, increasing the vessel's survivability under attack. Furthermore, the optimized hydrodynamic shape significantly reduced the submarine's acoustic signature, making it harder to detect. Each technical discovery broadened American understanding of how close Japan had come to possessing a truly decisive weapon, a weapon that could have changed the course of history. The complexity and integration of these systems revealed cutting-edge engineering. The interrogation of the Japanese engineers and officers responsible for the I-400 project revealed the full extent of the strategic ambition behind these super submarines, painting an even darker picture than the Americans had initially imagined. Captain Ariizumi Tatsunosuke, commander of the I-400 flotilla, detailed plans for coordinated attacks against some of the largest American cities: New York, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles. These attacks would be executed using formations of up to 50 bombers, launched simultaneously from a fleet of 17 submarines. The scale and audacity of these plans were breathtaking, revealing a total war strategy aimed at demoralizing the American civilian population and forcing a surrender. The Japanese had meticulously mapped American coastal defenses, identifying approach corridors that would avoid radar detection and escape routes through ocean currents that would mask the submarine's acoustic signatures. The precision and comprehensiveness of these plans demonstrated a level of strategic planning that deeply alarmed the Allies. Captured documents revealed production schedules that projected the completion of the entire I-400 fleet by March of 1946, coinciding with the planned American invasion of Japan. The final plan involved devastating psychological attacks against the American civilian population, aiming to undermine public support for continuing the war. Ariizumi admitted that Japanese commanders believed that just a few dozen successful attacks against American cities would force the United States to accept a negotiated armistice, preserving the Japanese imperial system. The calculated coldness of these plans shocked even American officers hardened by 4 years of brutal warfare in the Pacific. The idea that Japan was willing to take the war to such an extreme, even in its final hours, was a testament to imperial determination and the depth of its desperation. The revelation of these plans added a layer of urgency to the American decision regarding the fate of the I-400s, as the threat was far more real than imagined. As the Cold War emerged from the ashes of World War II, the discovery of the I-400s took on even more troubling geopolitical dimensions. American intelligence intercepted Soviet communications expressing intense interest in Japanese submarine technology, particularly in aircraft launch and long-range navigation systems. Joseph Stalin, the Soviet leader, had assigned a special team of naval engineers to study Japanese developments, immediately recognizing the strategic potential of submarines capable of attacking American territory from any ocean. The idea of a weapon that could project air power stealthily and globally was an invaluable prize in the new scenario of global polarization. Admiral William "Bull" Halsey, a legendary figure in the American Navy, warned the Pentagon that allowing Soviet access to the I-400s would be handing the enemy the key to our destruction. The gravity of this warning resonated deeply in the corridors of power in Washington. Tension escalated rapidly when Soviet agents attempted to infiltrate the Japanese shipyards where the submarines were being studied. The submarine technology race between the United States and the Soviet Union had begun even before the official end of hostilities, with the I-400s as the central prize of this deadly competition. Documents declassified decades later revealed that the NKVD, the Soviet secret police, had offered astronomical sums to Japanese engineers willing to share technical secrets. The pursuit of this technology was relentless, and American paranoia regarding the proliferation of advanced weapons was palpable. The possibility of the Soviet Union acquiring and replicating the I-400's capabilities represented an existential threat to the security of the United States, transforming the question of these submarines' fate into a national security decision of the highest priority. The era of the Cold War was just beginning, and the I-400s were already a symbol of its intensity. The decision to sink the I-400 submarines was made in the highest echelons of the American government, involving President Harry S. Truman himself and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. In secret meetings held at the Pentagon during September of 1945, military strategists intensely debated the fate of this revolutionary technology. Secretary of the Navy James Forrestal vehemently argued for the preservation of the submarines for prolonged technical studies, recognizing their invaluable worth for American naval development. He saw in the I-400s a unique opportunity for reverse engineering, which could propel U.S. submarine technology forward by decades. However, Secretary of State James Burns prevailed with arguments about the risks of technological proliferation in an increasingly polarized world. The concern about the Soviet Union and other emerging powers outweighed the desire for self-technological advancement, as the danger of this weapon falling into the wrong hands was considered unbearable. American intelligence had confirmed that Soviet, Chinese, and even British agents were attempting to gain access to the secrets of the I-400s. The race to acquire this technology was intense and multifaceted. The final decision was strongly influenced by alarming reports about the speed with which the Soviet Union was absorbing captured German military technology, which increased the fear that the I-400s could follow the same path. Truman, aware of the gravity of the situation and the long-range geopolitical implications, personally authorized Operation Road's End, the code name for the complete destruction of the super submarines and the erasure of all records related to their existence. The operation would be executed with absolute secrecy, ensuring that neither allies nor enemies could benefit from this devastating technology. It was a drastic measure, but considered essential to protect the national security interests of the United States at the dawn of a new era of ideological confrontations. Preparation for the sinking of the I-400s involved a meticulously planned intelligence operation to eliminate any trace of the Japanese technology. Specialized teams from the American Navy systematically disassembled each innovative component of the submarines, photographing and cataloging everything before final destruction. The catapult systems, for example, were removed and sent for study to secret laboratories on the east coast of the United States, where engineers and scientists attempted to unravel their secrets. Similarly, the advanced diesel engines were sent to research facilities in Detroit, where their efficiency and innovative design would be analyzed in depth. Most crucially, all technical documents, blueprints, and operating manuals were confiscated and classified under the highest level of security, making them inaccessible to the public and foreign powers. The intention was clear: absorb the knowledge, but erase the evidence. The Japanese engineers who worked on the I-400 project were kept in prolonged isolation, prevented from sharing their knowledge with any foreign power. This measure aimed to ensure that the technology's secret would not leak through human channels. Simultaneously, a disinformation campaign was launched to minimize the importance of the I-400s, publicly characterizing them as desperate experiments with no real military value. Journalists who attempted to investigate the story were discouraged through official pressure, while official documents were altered to omit specific references to the super submarine's capabilities. The cover-up operation was so effective that even military historians took decades to reconstruct the true extent of the Japanese project. The silence imposed on the I-400s was a testament to deep American concern about the potential for proliferation of this technology and the impact it could have on the global balance of power. On a foggy morning in May of 1946, the last 3 I-400 submarines were towed to deep waters off Pearl Harbor, a location steeped in symbolism, carrying with them the secrets of one of the most revolutionary weapons ever developed. Rear Admiral Charles Lockwood, commander of the operation, personally watched as strategically placed explosive charges ruptured the gigantic hulls. With each explosion, The metallic leviathans were sent to the bottom of the Pacific, more than 2,000 feet deep. Each submarine took approximately 12 minutes to sink completely, its hermetic hangars finally succumbing to the overwhelming pressure of the ocean depths. Lockwood later described the moment as watching the funeral of an era that should never have existed, a phrase that encapsulated the gravity of the decision and the relief of seeing such a potent threat disappear. The exact coordinates of the sinking were classified and remained secret for more than 50 years. Specialized divers confirmed that the wreckage was completely inaccessible, scattered over an area of several square miles on the ocean floor, ensuring that the technology could not be recovered by rival powers. With the physical disappearance of the I-400s, one of the most extraordinary pages in naval history was officially erased. The cover-up was so complete that, for decades, the existence and capabilities of these super submarines remained in the realm of rumors and speculation. The decision to sink them, rather than study or display them, reflects deep American anxiety regarding the proliferation of advanced weapons in an uncertain post-war world. It was an extreme measure, but one that American strategists deemed necessary to maintain global stability and the technological supremacy of the United States, even if it meant burying a fascinating and terrifying part of military history. The truth about these underwater giants remained hidden for a long period. During the following decades, the suppression of the I-400's history became one of the best-kept secrets of the Cold War. American veterans who participated in the discovery and analysis of the super submarines were required to sign confidentiality agreements that remained in effect for decades, under penalty of severe punishment. Military libraries and naval archives were systematically purged of any detailed references to the I-400s, leaving only vague mentions of experimental Japanese submarines. This policy of silence and disinformation was so effective that when historians occasionally stumbled upon fragmentary evidence, they found closed doors and documents lost or accidentally destroyed. The Japanese Navy itself, under American occupation, was instructed to minimize the project's importance in its official records, contributing to the narrative that the I-400s were little more than a curiosity without strategic relevance. The effectiveness of this cover-up is a testament to the determination to maintain secrecy. Former Japanese engineers who attempted to publish technical memoirs or share their knowledge about the I-400 project faced legal pressure and threats of prosecution for national security violations. The silence was so complete that even respected naval encyclopedias omitted crucial details about the I-400's capabilities, perpetuating ignorance about this revolutionary technology. Only in the 1990s, with the gradual declassification of World War II documents, did fragments of the true story begin to emerge, revealing the extent of the cover-up that had lasted half a century. This belated revelation not only filled a gap in military history, but also raised important questions about the ethics of information suppression and the impact such decisions have on public understanding of historical events. The truth about the I-400s slowly began to come to light, challenging established narratives and forcing a reevaluation of the past. The rediscovery of the I-400 wreckage in 2005 by the Hawaii Undersea Research Laboratory marked a moment of historical revelation that validated decades of speculation and rumors. Dr. Terry Kirby, pilot of the Pisces 5 submersible, described his first sight of the wreckage as finding an underwater cathedral of naval engineering. The gigantic hulls, preserved by the cold water and lack of oxygen in the depths of the Pacific, retained structural details that confirmed long classified technical reports. The impressive dimensions of the hangars, visible through ruptures in the hull, provided irrefutable physical evidence of these submarines' revolutionary capabilities. This discovery was not just an archaeological find, it was material proof of a history that had been deliberately erased, a silent testament to Japanese technological audacity and American anxiety. The visibility of these remains on the ocean floor brought to light a long-buried truth. More significantly, the discovery included fragments of the catapult systems and components of the Seiran bombers, validating descriptions that many historians had considered exaggerated or even fictitious. Analysis of the wreckage revealed naval construction techniques that anticipated later developments by decades, including specialized welds and metal alloys that only became standard in the nuclear age. Kirby noted that each dive revealed new details that rewrote our understanding of how truly advanced Japanese technology was. The discovery forced a complete re-evaluation of the official narrative about the end of World War II, demonstrating that history, even the best kept, has a way of emerging from the depths. The truth about the I-400s, now visible on the ocean floor, challenged the official version of events, paving the way for a more complete and nuanced understanding of the conflict. The persistence of truth, even after decades of silence, is a powerful reminder. Modern forensic analysis of the I-400 wreckage revealed technological innovations that surprised even contemporary naval engineers. Preserved hydraulic systems showed engineering precision comparable to current standards, while electronic components demonstrated advanced miniaturization for the time, a remarkable feat considering the technological limitations of World War II. Dr. James Delgado, the marine archaeologist responsible for the expedition, discovered that the Japanese had developed submarine sealing techniques that were not matched by the American Navy until the 1960s. Almost 20 years later. This technological gap underscored the vanguard of Japanese design. Even more impressive was the discovery of inertial navigation systems based on precision gyroscopes that anticipated ballistic missile technologies by a decade, revealing a capacity for thought and engineering that was far ahead of its time. Components of the diesel engines revealed superior energy efficiency compared to American standards of the era, incorporating innovations that were only commercially adopted in the 1970s. The modular structure of the hangars demonstrated sophisticated logistical planning, allowing for maintenance and repairs in adverse ocean conditions, a testament to Japanese ingenuity in designing for operational resilience. Delgado concluded that the I-400s represented a technological leap that could have fundamentally altered the global naval balance if they had been completed in sufficient numbers. Each archaeological discovery broadened understanding of how close the world had come to a completely different naval reality, a reality where submarines could have become the primary vectors of power projection, challenging the supremacy of aircraft carriers and redefining naval warfare forever. The engineering of the I-400s, even in ruins, continues to inspire admiration and study. The potential strategic impact of the I-400s became clearer as modern military analysts reconstructed hypothetical scenarios of their operational deployment. Computer simulations conducted by the Naval Academy demonstrated that a full fleet of 18 I-400s could have kept the American West Coast under constant threat, forcing the massive redirection of defensive resources that would be crucial on other battlefronts. General Curtis LeMay, in declassified interviews decades later, admitted that the discovery of the super submarines had caused strategic nightmares among American military planners. The ability to attack any point on the American coastline without warning represented a revolution in naval warfare, anticipating concepts of nuclear deterrence by several years. The idea that a nation could launch air attacks stealthily and globally, without the need for fixed bases, was one that fundamentally changed the national security equation. The latent threat of these submarines redefined how nations thought about defense. Even more concerning was the perception that the Japanese had developed this technology with limited resources during a devastating war, suggesting that smaller nations could develop devastating asymmetric capabilities to challenge larger powers. This lesson did not go unnoticed. Pentagon documents revealed that the discovery of the I-400s directly influenced the development of American nuclear submarines, incorporating lessons learned about long-range operations and integrated weapon systems. Japanese technology had forced a complete re-evaluation of American naval doctrines, driving the pursuit of more stealthy, more autonomous submarines capable of projecting power in innovative ways. Thus, even in destruction and secrecy, the I-400s left an indelible mark on the evolution of naval warfare, shaping the strategies and technologies of superpowers in the decades that followed. Its influence, though hidden, was profound and lasting. The influence of the I-400s on post-war naval development extended far beyond American borders, inspiring submarine programs in multiple nations for decades. The Soviet Union, despite being prevented from accessing the original submarines, developed similar concepts based on fragmentary intelligence and interrogations of Japanese prisoners. Soviet Zulu-class submarines, for example, incorporated elements clearly inspired by the I-400s, including missile launch capabilities and extended range, seeking to replicate the threat the Japanese had conceived. France, in turn, developed the concept of cruiser submarines that echoed the Japanese operational philosophy of long-range attacks, recognizing the strategic value of submersible platforms capable of operating globally. The dissemination of these ideas, even without direct access to the technology, demonstrated the power of an innovative concept. Even the British Royal Navy secretly studied American reports on the I-400s, influencing the design of its later nuclear submarine classes. The concept of aircraft-carrying submarines resurfaced in multiple navies during the Cold War, culminating in Soviet gigantic nuclear submarine designs capable of launching aircraft, such as the Oscar-class cruise missile submarine. Naval engineers recognize that practically all modern strategic submarines incorporate operational principles pioneered by the I-400s, from inertial navigation systems to asymmetric warfare concepts. The technological seed planted by Japanese engineers continued to germinate in navies around the world for generations, proving that, even when a technology is buried, its ideas and the potential it represents can influence the future of naval warfare in profound and lasting ways. The persistence of these innovations, even after the cover-up, is a testament to their impact. The gradual revelation of the I-400's history in recent decades has forced historians to reconsider established narratives about the end of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War. Dr. Norman Polmar, a respected naval historian, argues that the suppression of the I-400's history represented one of the most successful cover-up operations in American military history. This assertion challenges the common perception that war history is an open book, revealing that state secrets can shape public understanding for generations. The discovery that Japan had come so close to possessing a truly revolutionary weapon challenges perceptions about the technological balance during the war, suggesting that Japan, despite its losses, was still capable of surprising innovations that could have changed the game. The complexity of history, often hidden by strategic decisions, is beginning to be unraveled. More significantly, the American decision to destroy this technology, rather than openly study it, reveals deep anxieties about the proliferation of advanced weapons in an uncertain post-war world. It was a tacit recognition that the power of a single nation to develop such a disruptive weapon could destabilize the global order. Declassified documents suggest that the I-400 cover-up set precedents for the suppression of other sensitive military technologies during the Cold War, creating a culture of secrecy that would endure for decades. The full history of these super submarines remains partially hidden, with many documents still classified after 80 years. Historians speculate that future revelations may further alter our understanding of Japanese military capabilities and American strategic decisions in the post-war period. The truth about the I-400s continues to slowly emerge from the depths of classified history, a reminder that the past is often more complex than it seems. Today, as naval tensions resurface in the Pacific and other strategic regions of the globe, the story of the I-400s offers sober lessons on military innovation and strategic surprise. Modern analysts observe troubling parallels between the Japanese super submarines and contemporary naval developments of emerging powers. The ability of a technologically advanced nation to develop revolutionary weapons in secret remains a central concern for military strategists, who constantly seek to anticipate the next major innovation that could unbalance the scales of power. The concept of asymmetric warfare pioneered by the I-400s, using superior technology to bypass enemy numerical advantages, has become standard doctrine for multiple modern navies, which seek ways to maximize their impact with limited resources. The relevance of the I-400s transcends their time, offering valuable insights for current military strategy. More fundamentally, the history of the Japanese super submarines demonstrates how military innovations can remain hidden for decades, altering our understanding of crucial historical events and the true extent of each side's capabilities. The silent wreckage at the bottom of the Pacific serves as a permanent reminder that military history is replete with still unrevealed secrets, lost technologies, and decisions that shaped the world in ways we are only now beginning to understand. The true measure of the I-400 project lies not only in its impressive engineering, but in its demonstration that even in the final hours of a lost war, human innovation can produce weapons capable of altering the fate of nations. It is a story that forces us to question what else remains hidden beneath the waves of history, and how these untold truths continue to influence the present and future of global military strategy.